I was literally shaking. Almost dropped my phone right there in the middle of the store. I was just staring at the screen. It was the security footage from 2 a.m. Mark was walking out the front door in his gym clothes. But he wasn't going to the gym. He was meeting a Cara silver sedan. He didn't even check to see if I was awake. And the thing is, we'd had dinner together, like 3 hours before that. He was acting totally normal. He asked me if we needed more laundry detergent. He looked me right in the eyes, told me he loved me, and then just sneaks out at 2 in the morning anyway. I didn't scream or blow up his phone. I just put the phone back in my pocket and bought the weather stripping. I sat in my car for a while after, and realized I wasn't even sad. I don't know, I just felt blank. I went home and just kept the routine going. That's the hardest part. I guess you have to keep everything moving, so they don't think something's wrong. I remember spending an hour scrubbing ants out of the pantry, and while I was doing that, I just started thinking about every joint asset we had. The 401k, the house, and that weird investment account Mark opened years ago that he told me not to worry about. I started checking my credit score every morning at 6 a.m. I got obsessed with the number. I wanted to know the second a dollar moved, or if a new line of credit popped up. If it dropped by 1 point, I wanted to know why. It felt like I was managing a failing business, and I was the only one trying to save it. About a week later, I was stuck in the pharmacy drive-thru. Some lady in front of me was arguing with the pharmacist about insurance, and I just sat there for 20 minutes idling the engine while she was yelling. I was texting my lawyer, Sarah. I sent her photos of some documents I'd found in Mark's officey stuff, hidden in old tax folders. I asked her how to freeze the secondary account without him getting an alert on his phone. Sarah just texted back, "Keep it normal. Don't let him know you have these. I'll call you tomorrow." So I became the most boring version of myself. One Tuesday afternoon, I spent hours dealing with the kids' iPad because it locked them out. I was sitting at the kitchen table resetting the password and waiting for the emails. And Mark walked in. "You look tired, Daisy," he said. "Just the iPad," I told him. He kissed my forehead. I didn't even flinch. I just stared at the screen. I was thinking about a forged signature I'd found on a property deed from 3 years ago. I didn't say anything. I just told him. The kids wanted to play their game, and I couldn't get the app to update. Then there was this last-minute classroom cupcake request. The teacher emails at 8 p.m. saying tomorrow is Special Person Day, and you need 2 dozen cupcakes. I was in the kitchen at 10 p.m. frosting these things, and Mark was on the couch, watching a game. He looked so comfortable. I remember looking at the cupcakes and thinking about how easy it would be to just ruin him financially. I wanted him to leave that house with nothing but the clothes on his back and a huge legal bill. I started gathering the receipts. I spent my nights, while he was at the gym or working late, making copies of everything. I found a folder in his cloud storage that he'd forgotten to password protect. It was full of screenshots, not just of another woman but financial stuff. He'd been siphoning small amounts of money into a separate account for 18 months. I didn't cry. I just started a list in my notes app of everything he owed me. A few days later, my sister Alina was hosting a baby shower for a family friend. I spent the whole morning getting the kids ready, just playing the part of the tired mom. I even helped Alina set up the balloons. "You're a lifesaver, Daisy," Alina said. "I don't know how you handle everything. It's easy," I said. I walked into the living room and saw Mark talking to Alina in the kitchen. They were standing way too close. Not husband and sister-in-law close, but that kind of closeness where they think they're being subtle but they're not. I stood there for a minute for a second, watching them. Mark saw me and immediately stepped back. He had that same wide-eyed look he had that night at the store. "Hey, honey," he said. "Alina was just telling me about the catering." I didn't say anything. I just walked over to the counter to help with the appetizers. Alina's phone was sitting face up on the counter right next to me. A notification popped up, an email confirmation for a hotel in Miami from last month. The same weekend, Mark told me. He was at a leadership conference in Chicago. The confirmation was in Alina's name, and the second guest was Mark. I looked at the phone, then at my sister, then at my husband. I took a quick photo of the screen with my own phone and slid it back. "The shrimp looks great, Alina," I said. I stood there for a second, just staring at the shrimp platter and then at Alina. I just kept my face blank, handed a plate to one of the guests and forced a smile. Try the dip, I told her. It's actually really good. The rest of the shower was just a total nightmare. I spent the whole time fake laughing and nodding, basically dissociating while Alina played the sweet sister role. Mark kept trying to catch my eye, and she was doing her usual bubbly thing, but it felt like a performance. I spent the next 2 hours pretending to care about diaper brands and baby registries. But in my head, I was just running the numbers on that hotel room in Miami. When we finally got home and the kids were asleep, Mark tried to do that thing he doest. Everything is totally normal act. He started rambling about the lawn and how the sprinklers were acting up. I think the valve is stuck, he said. Maybe, I told him. I was just scrolling through the photos I'd taken of Alina's phone. I'll put it on the list. He stopped and looked at me. You've been quiet since the shower. You okay? Just a headache, I said. I'm gonna go lie down. I headed straight for the guest room, locked the door and called Sarah. I have a second person, I told her. It's my sister Alina. They've been going to Miami. I have the confirmation. Sarah didn't even sound surprised. She just asked for the dates. I gave them to her, and then told her about the separate account Mark had been feeding. We need to move fast, Sarah said. If he's using a professional to hide the money, he'll start scrubbing everything the second he thinks you're onto him. Was the guy? I don't know, I said. But I found a name in some deleted emails. Christopher Miller. About 3 days later, my phone rings. It was a number I didn't recognize. I answered it, and this guy with a very polished, expensive-sounding voice introduces himself. Hello, Daisy. This is Christopher M. Miller. I'm working with your husband, Mark. I just stayed quiet. I didn't say hello or ask who he was. I just let him keep talking. Now, Daisy, he said. Mark and I have talked. He's very concerned about your emotional state right now. He thinks it's in the best interest of the kids that we reach a private, amicable separation. I've drafted a preliminary proposal that ensures you're taken care of, as long as we keep this out of the public record and avoid any unnecessary litigation. I could tell he was smiling. He was trying to play the reasonable professional, but the proposal was basically hush money. He wanted me to sign over my rights to the investment account for a lump sum that was probably a fraction of what it was actually worth. I'll have my lawyer look at it, I said. I think a lawyer might complicate things, Daisy. Why involve strangers in a family matter? Let's just keep this between us. Send it over, I said, and I hung up. I didn't tell Mark I'd spoken to Miller. I didn't even let him know I knew who the guy was. I just went about my day. That afternoon, I spent like 45 minutes trying to reset the password for the kids' iPad, because they'd managed to lock themselves out again. I was sitting on the living room floor, fighting with the forgot password prompts, and Mark was just standing over me. Do you want me to do it? He asked. I've got it, I said. I was staring at the screen, but I was thinking about how Miller tried to push that private agreement on me. Mark wasn't just cheating with my sister, he was preparing for a fight. He thought I was too weak to handle. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. and checked my credit score. It had dipped by 4 points. I felt this weird surge of adrenaline. I didn't know why it dropped, but I knew it meant something had moved. I spent the next hour digging through the joint bank statements, looking for any transfer. Even a $10 on that didn't make sense. While I was doing that, I noticed a trail of ants leading from the baseboard straight into the pantry. I spent an hour on my hands and knees with a spray bottle and paper towels, just scrubbing them out of the corners. My back was killing me, and while I was scrubbing, I was texting Sarah. Miller called me, I wrote. He's trying to buy my silence. Check the property records for any holdings under Miller's name or his firm's shell companies. I think Mark is moving the money into real estate. Sarah texted back. On it, keep the mask on. Do not let him know. You're looking at the credit reports. I spent the rest of the week on total autopilot. I went to the pharmacy drive-thru to pick up the kids' vitamins and ended up stuck behind this woman who was having a full-blown meltdown with the pharmacist about a generic brand replacement. I sat there for 20 minutes with the engine idling, just staring at the back of her SUV. I wasn't even annoyed. I was actually glad for the time. I used those 20 minutes to go through the photos I'd taken of Mark's cloud storage and cross-reference them with the dates of those leadership conferences he'd attended. It wasn't just Miami. There was a trip to Scottsdale, a weekend in Savannah, Every single one of them happened when Alina was visiting her parents or having a girls' getaway. I started leaving little breadcrumbs for Alina. I didn't confront her. I just mentioned things. "Oh, Alina," I said one afternoon, while we were folding laundry in my laundry room. I was looking at some old travel brochures, and I saw that Miami is lovely in the spring. Mark mentioned he liked the hotels there. Have you ever been? Alina didn't even flinch. She just kept folding a toddler's shirt. "No, never." "Why, just wondering," I said. "I think we might go for our anniversary." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That sounds lovely, Daisy." I could see her brain working. She was wondering how much I knew, trying to gauge if I was suspicious or just being my usual, oblivious self. I let her believe the latter. I just played the part of the tired, overwhelmed mom. Then the doorbell cam battery died. It happened on a Thursday. I went to check the footage from the previous night because Mark had come home 2 hours late, claiming he was stuck in a meeting. I opened the app and it just said battery low, device offline. I almost lost it. I felt this flash of rage. I knew he'd probably unplugged the charger or something. I went outside in my pajamas and climbed the ladder to check the unit. As I was standing there, Mark walked out onto the porch. "What are you doing?" he asked. "The battery died," I said. "I'm checking the connection." "I'll do it tomorrow," he said. He reached out to touch my shoulder, and I stepped back, pretending to struggle with the camera mount. "I've got it," I said. I spent the next hour in the office, using a laptop to access the backup logs that the app doesn't always show. I found it. He hadn't actually disabled the camera. He'd just looped a few minutes of empty driveway footage from 3 nights prior. He thought he was being clever. I took a screen recording of the loop and emailed it to Sarah. "He's looping the footage," I wrote. "He's definitely sneaking out. Start the filing for the emergency freeze on the assets now." That Friday, I had a last-minute request from the school. It was career day, and I had to put together a presentation. I spent the entire evening making a poster board about my job in project management, using glitter glue and markers. Mark was sitting in the living room on the phone with Christopher Miller. I could hear his voice and hushed. "Yash is still clueless," Mark was saying, "just distracted with the school projects. Is the offshore thing done yet? Let me know by Monday." I stood there holding a piece of neon green construction paper, and I just smiled. I didn't feel sad. I just felt like I was winning a game. He didn't even know we were playing. I walked into the living room and leaned over the back of the couch. "Do you think the glitter is too much?" I asked, holding up the poster. Mark jumped, nearly dropping his phone. He looked at me, and for a split second I saw actual fear in his eyes. "No," he said. "It looks great, honey." I patted his head and walked back into the kitchen. I opened my laptop and logged back into my credit report. I waited. I watched the screen, and then the notification popped up. A new line of credit had been opened in my name. 50,000. My hands were shaking, but I managed to grab a screenshot and sent it to Sarah with one sentence. "Got him." I heard the front door open and Alina walk in. She had a bottle of wine in her hand and a huge fake smile on her face. "I thought I'd drop by for a visit," she chirped. I looked at the wine, then at the screenshot of the fraud, and then at my sister. "Come in, Alina," I said. "I have something I want to show you." I shoved the phone in Alina's face. Right there on the screen was the notification for a $50,000 line of credit opened in my name. Alina didn't even blink. She looked at it, then gave me that everything is fine look she always does. "Daisy, it's probably a mistake," she said. "Maybe Mark did it for the house? You know how he gets with the renovations." I didn't move the phone. I kept it right there. "A mistake. $50,000 is a mistake." Mark walked in right then. He saw us and looked straight at the phone. He didn't even say hi. "What's going on?" he asked. "I got a notification for a new line of credit, Mark. 50,000. In my name." "What the hell is this, Dot?" Mark started rubbing the back of his neck. He looked at Alina, then back at me. "I was looking into some investments," he said. "Didn't want to stress you with the paperwork until it was final. I was gonna tell you Monday. With a loan in my name. It's a bridge loan, okay? Stop overreacting. It's for the house." I stared at him. I didn't even know what to say, so I asked Alina if she wanted some wine. It was weird, walking into the kitchen and pouring 3 glasses while they stood there. I looked at the bottle and thought about how much he was lying. Right there in my own living room. And my sister was just standing there backing him up. I gave them the drinks and told them I had to check on the kids. As soon as I got upstairs and shut the door, I called Sarah. He did it, I told her. 50,000. He's panicking and Alina's helping him cover it. Don't let him know you're calling me, Sarah said. And don't sign anything he puts in front of you. I'll dig into the assets. If Hez taking loans in your name, he's desperate. He's probably trying to move money out of the joint accounts before we can freeze them. For the next 3 days I played along. It felt strange, like I wasn't even there. I'd be making school lunches or folding towels, and Mark would be watching me, trying to see if I was still mad. I gave him these tight little smiles and told him it was fine, that we'd talk about the loan later. Tuesday, I found the ants again. They'd gotten into the cereal boxes. I spent an hour in the pantry, scrubbing the shelves with bleach and vinegar. My knees were getting raw on the linoleum. And while I was doing that, I was checking Credit Karma every 10 minutes. I was obsessed with the number. Every time the page refreshed, it was like a little jolt. I wanted to see him move something. While I was scrubbing, Mark came into the kitchen. "Still cleaning that?" he asked. "The ants are back," I said. "I'll call an exterminator," I told him. No. I didn't want strangers in the house, and I definitely didn't want anyone seeing the folders I'd hidden under the guest room mattress. Wednesday was the CV's trip. I had to get the kids' prescriptions and more ant bait. I got stuck in the drive-thru behind this woman who was having a huge argument with the pharmacist about generic blood pressure medication. She was yelling the pharmacist was trying to explain the copay, and I sat there for 25 minutes idling the engine. I used the time to email Sarah. "He's too calm," I wrote. "He thinks I believe the investment excuse. Find out where that 50,000 went." Sarah responded almost immediately. "I found something, but it's not just Mark. I've been digging into the property records and the trusts for his family. There's a name popping up on some offshore transfers." Who? I asked. "Jeremy I. Ellis." I stared at the screen. Jeremy I. Ellis was my mother-in-law's legal name. I'd only ever known her as June the whole time we were married. She was the kind of woman who baked lemon squares and always complained about her arthritis. She sent handwritten cards for every holiday. "What does your mother-in-law have to do with a loan?" "I typed everything," Sarah replied. "I found forged bank papers. Mark has been transferring money into a trust managed by Jeremy I. Ellis. But the signatures on the papers aren't Mark's, they're yours." I felt like I was gonna throw up. Right there in the Sieves drive-thru, I wasn't even sad. I just felt cold. He hadn't just been cheating with my sister. He'd been stealing my identity to fund his mother's estate. I sat there listening to the woman in front of me finally scream, "This is robbery!" and peel away. I went home and tried to distract myself. I spent 2 hours trying to reset the Apple ID password for the kids' iPad because they'd locked themselves out again. I was at the kitchen table staring at the security questions, and Mark was right there next to me, scrolling through his phone. "Want me to do it?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. I was looking at the iPad, but I was thinking about Junior Jeremy. And what happens when the investigators show up for bank fraud? Mark had forged my signature. That wasn't just a divorce thing, that was a crime. Friday, the Ring camera battery died again. I went outside in the rain to change it, and as I was climbing the ladder, I saw Mark watching me from the window. He looked sketched out. I think he knew something was changing. He just didn't know what. I went back inside and called Sarah. "I want the forged papers," I said. "Every single document where he signed my name. I want the trail to Jeremy I. Ellis to be solid." "I have them," Sarah said. "But Daisy, if we do this, we aren't just talking about a settlement. We're talking criminal charges. Mark could go to jail, so could your mother-in-law." "Good," I said. I didn't hesitate. I didn't even think about the kids. I wanted them to lose everything. Monday was special person day at the kids' school, so I had to make cupcakes Sunday night. I frosted 2 dozen vanilla cupcakes with blue frosting. Mark was in the living room on the phone with Christopher Miller. "I need the transfer to be seamless," Mark was saying. "If she finds out about the trust, we're done. Make sure the paper trail is buried." I stood there with the piping bag and smiled. I walked into the living room and set a plate of cupcakes on the coffee table. "Want one?" I asked. Mark jumped, nearly dropping his phone. "No, I'm good, honey." "You look stressed, Mark. Maybe you should take a nap." I went back to the kitchen and opened my laptop. I logged into the joint account. He'd moved another 10,000. I didn't stop it. I wanted him to feel secure. I wanted him to think he was successfully draining me. I spent the next hour getting the kids' backpacks ready and making sure they had their permission slips for the zoo. Sarah was texting me. "The freeze is ready," Sarah texted. "Give me the word and we hit the bank and the court. The loan, the trust and the joint accounts will be locked. He won't be able to move a cent." It was 4:30. Mark was in the shower. I sat in the kitchen listening to the water running upstairs. My hands were shaking a little, but I told myself to stay calm. About 10 minutes later, the shower stopped. I heard him coming down the stairs. "Hey, Daisy," he called out. "Heading into the office for a few hours to finish some reports. Need anything from the store?" "No," I said. "I'm all set." He kissed me on the cheek and walked out the front door to his car. 2 minutes after he pulled out of the driveway, his phone started ringing. Then his iPad, which he'd left on the counter, started chiming with alerts. I picked up the iPad. It was a bank notification. Then the email from Sarah came through saying Christopher Miller and Mark's own lawyer. The subject line was "Notice of Formal Complaint and Request for Immediate Asset Disclosure. Forgery and Fraud." I put the iPad back exactly where he'd left it. The front door opened. It was Alina with a bag of groceries and that same fake bubbly smile. "I thought it'd help with dinner," she said. I looked at her, then at the buzzing iPad on the counter. "Perfect timing, Alina. I think you should see this. Alina looked at the tablet and froze. She looked totally shocked, and she actually dropped the groceries. Bread and kale went everywhere. "What is this, Daisy?" she asked. "It's a fraud alert," I said. I stood there for a minute looking at her. "And the joint accounts are frozen. Identity theft, forgery, all that. Your boyfriend or my husband, whatever, has been busy. Alina tried to laugh, doing this weird little giggle. "I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. Mark's not great with tech. He forged my signature on a trust document to move money to his mother," I told her. "And he took out a $50,000 loan in my name." "This isn't a computer problem, Alina. He committed a felony." But the smile went away. She looked at the tablet, then at me. I think it was the first time she actually looked scared. "Does he know you know?" she whispered. "He's about to," I said. I didn't even kick her out right then. I told her to pick up the groceries and leave. She didn't argue. She grabbed her bag and bolted. I didn't watch her go. I picked up the tablet and turned it off. About 20 minutes later, I heard Mark's car pull into the driveway. I didn't go to the door. I went into the pantry and started moving some cans around. I noticed those ants I'd been dealing with were finally dying off. There were dozens of them around the traps. I spent a few minutes wiping them away with a damp paper towel, because it was gross. Then the front door slammed. "Daisy," he yelled. "Daisy, get out here right now." I didn't hurry. I finished cleaning the shelf and tossed the paper towel before walking out. Mark was standing there, face bright red, gripping his phone like he wanted to break it. "What the hell did you do?" he screamed. "My accounts are locked. Miller says everything is frozen. What did you do?" "I reported fraud," I said, keeping my voice flat. "The $50th loan in my name? The trust for Jeremy C. Ellis? Banks aren't fans of forged signatures, Mark!" He stopped screaming and stared at me. It was quiet for a long time. No apology, no guilt. He looked like he was calculating. "You think you're being smart," he said. "But you ruined the kids' future. Everything is frozen. We can't pay the mortgage or the school. You nuked the whole family." "I didn't nuke anything," I said. "I stopped you from stealing my identity. If you're worried about the mortgage, maybe you shouldn't have used my credit for your mother's estate." "I was doing it for the family," he yelled. "Right. For the family," I said. "Is that why you were in Miami with my sister?" That shut him up. He stepped back, mouth open. I didn't wait for an answer. I walked past him and went into the guest room. I locked the door and called Sarah. "He's home," I said. "He's panicking. He's trying the ruining the kids' future thing." Same old playbook," Sarah said. "The freeze is holding. The bank flagged the transfers to the Ellis Trust. Since it's fraud, the police get involved. Mark's lawyer, Miller, is already sweating. He knows if he helped with the forgery, he's losing his license." "What's next?" I asked. "We push for everything," Sarah said. "The house, the investment accounts, full custody. In exchange, you don't press charges for the forgery. He either repays the loan and settles it quietly, or he goes to the DA." "Do it," I said. The next 2 weeks were weird. I stayed in the house with him. But we didn't talk about the affair, or the money. We just existed in this cold, quiet space. I went about my day. Tuesday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. and checked my credit app. The $50 loan was still disputed, and my score had dipped again. I didn't really care. I took a screenshot and sent it to Sarah. "You're really going to act like this is normal?" he asked. "I'm resetting a password, Mark," I said. "I'm not acting." "You're a monster," he said. "I'm making sure you actually leave this time," I replied. Wednesday was a trip to the drugstore. I needed the kids' allergy meds and more ant traps, because the ones in the pantry weren't doing enough. I got stuck in the drive-thru behind some guy trying to use an expired coupon for a toothpaste. The pharmacy didn't even sell. He spent 15 minutes arguing with the technician. I sat there with the engine running. I used the time to look at the documents Sarah sent. Mark had tried to hide another account, a small one in the Cayman Islands. He thought he was being clever with a shell company, but he used the same address as his mother's trust. When I got home, the doorbell camera battery had died again. I had to get the ladder to replace it. While I was clicking the battery in, I saw Alina's car pull into the driveway. She didn't get out. She sat there for a few minutes, staring at the house, then drove away. I didn't really feel anything. No anger, no pity. I felt numb, like I was checking boxes on a list. Thursday was special person day cupcakes. I'd spent the night before frosting them and packing them in containers. Mark was in the living room, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. He looked thin. "I'll sign the papers," he said. I didn't look up from the lunchboxes. "Which ones?" "All of them. The house, the accounts, the custody. Just tell the bank to lift the freeze so I can move my things." "The freeze stays until the loan is paid back," I said. "And until the money in the Ellis Trust is back in the joint account." "My mother doesn't have that money anymore," he yelled. "She spent it on her beach house renovations." I stopped packing the lunches and looked at him. "Then she can sell the beach house. Or you can explain the luxury renovations to the DA." He sank into the couch and put his head in his hands. I didn't feel sorry for him. I went back to making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Friday morning, I met Sarah at a coffee shop. "I didn't order anything. I wanted the papers." "He signed," Sarah said, sliding the folder over. "Everything, the house, the accounts." He waived his right to contest custody. "We filed a satisfaction of claim with the bank, so as long as the money is returned, you won't pursue the criminal charges." "And the mother-in-law?" I asked. "Junior Jerem agreed to sell the beach house to cover it," Sarah said. She was terrified of the forgery charge. "She's actually the one who told Mark to settle." I put the folder in my bag. "Is it over?" I asked. "Legally, yes," Sarah said. "He has until Sunday to be out." "You won, Daisy." I walked back home. The living room was empty. Mark was in the guest room, packing. I stood in the doorway. "You forgot your charger," I said, holding up the white cable from the nightstand. He didn't look at me. He took it. "I hope you're happy." "I'm not worried about being happy, Mark," I said. "I'm worried about the equity." He left Saturday morning. He didn't say goodbye to the kids. He told him it was easier if he left while they were at their grandmother's. He drove away in the car he'd paid for with the money he tried to steal. I watched him leave through the doorbell camera. Once he was gone, I went to the kitchen. I opened the pantry and saw the ants were finally gone. I spent an hour scrubbing the shelves one last time. Then I sat down and opened my laptop. I logged into the credit app and refreshed the page. The $50,000 loan was gone. The dispute was resolved. Balance was 0. My credit score jumped up 20 points. I stared at the number for a while. The phone rang. "It was Alina." "Daisy," she said. Her voice was shaking. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know about the forgery. I didn't know he was doing all that." "I know you didn't, Alina," I said. "But you knew he was in Miami. You knew he was lying for years." "I was confused," she sobbed. "I love him." "That's a you problem," I said. I hung up. I walked into the living room and looked at the space where the couch used to be. I'd already ordered a new, larger sectional. I didn't want any of the furniture he'd picked. I spent the afternoon going through the kids' school folders. There was a note from the teacher saying the cupcakes were a hit. I pinned the note to the fridge with a magnet. I went into the guest room and pulled out the folders hidden under the mattress. I took them to the fireplace and fed the papers in, page by page, the forged signatures, the bank statements, the hotel photos. Around 6 p.m., the kids came home. They were loud, complaining about the zoos and arguing over the tablet. "Mom," my daughter yelled, "I can't get into my game. The password is wrong again." I sighed and walked over to her. I took the tablet and looked at the screen. "I've got it," I said. I spent the next 10 minutes resetting the account for the third time this month. I sat there on the living room floor, clicking through the security prompts, and the house was finally quiet. I wasn't thinking about Mark or Alina. I focused on the screen. Once it was fixed, I handed the tablet back. "There," I said. "It's done." I stood up, stretched my back, and went to the kitchen to start dinner. I noticed a single ant crawling across the counter. I grabbed the spray bottle and wiped it away.